All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving into a pretty revolutionary idea. What if the key to building truly intelligent AI isn't just about more data or faster processors, but about a concept that's literally thousands of years old?
Now, I know that sounds a little out there, right? An ancient key to a future technology, but stick with me, because this question is at the very heart of a huge shift in how we're starting to think about artificial intelligence. It's a move away from just raw computation and towards something much deeper, genuine understanding.
Okay, so let's get right into it. To really grasp why we'd even think about looking backwards to move forwards, we've got to first talk about what's not quite right with AI as we know it today. I mean, think about it. We have AIs that can crush a grandmaster at chess and sift through mountains of data in seconds. But then you ask one a simple question that requires a bit of common sense, and it just falls flat. It feels like there's a fundamental piece missing, a crucial catalyst that it just doesn't have. So what is that missing piece? What's the catalyst we need? Well, you're probably not going to guess this, but the answer comes from a field called hermeneutics. Hermeneutics. It's a mouthful, I know. But all it really is the art and science of interpretation. It's how we get a joke, or understand the meaning of a poem, or follow a conversation. We're constantly bouncing between the specific details and the overall context. The big idea here is, if this process is like an enzyme for human understanding, maybe, just maybe, it's the key to unlocking artificial understanding too. And look, this isn't some brand new tech concept cooked up in a lab last week. This idea of interpretation has this incredibly rich philosophical history. We're talking a direct line from ancient Greece with thinkers like Heraclitus all the way to 20th century philosophers who argued that this whole interpretation thing isn't just something we do, it's fundamental to how we even exist. The engine that drives all of this is what's known as the hermeneutic circle. And honestly, the best way to wrap your head around it is to think about watching a movie. A single scene, that's the part, only makes sense because you have a grasp of the overall story. That's the whole. But here's the cool part. Every new scene you watch actually changes and deepens your understanding of that bigger story. It's this constant back and forth loop of understanding.
Okay, so that's the philosophy. But how in the world do you translate that into code? How do you get a machine, a hunk of silicon and wires, to do something so human?
Well, it turns out the learning process for an AI like this looks like a kind of two-step dance. First, you have assimilation. This is the AI using what it already knows, its current worldview, to try and make sense of new information. But what happens when something new comes along that just doesn't fit? That's step 2, accommodation. The AI has no choice but to change its internal model, to update its understanding to fit the facts. It literally accommodates reality. And this right here is the big aha moment. When you lay them side by side, it's just stunning. On one side, you have the philosophical model, pre-understanding, encountering a part, relating to the whole, revising the whole. And on the other, the AI's learning cycle, its library of knowledge, getting new data, assimilating it, and then accommodating when it doesn't fit. They are a direct computational parallel. It's the same exact learning process, just described in two different languages. So you might be asking, okay, what is the AI actually interpreting? It's not letters or words in the usual sense. It's interpreting something called a process sign. The best way to think about this is that it's not a static symbol, like the letter A. It's a dynamic pattern over time, a recurring shape or curve it learns directly from experience. The sign is the process itself. Okay, I know this can still feel a little abstract, so let's ground this whole idea in a real-world example, a case study that shows this process in action. So check this out. Researchers hooked up video game players to sensors that measured their muscle tension, and they focused on one specific moment, the exact second their character died in the game. Then they just fed all that raw, messy, physiological data to the AI. Now here's the crucial part. They gave the AI 0 clues. No labels, no predefined categories like happy or sad, just the raw data. So what did the AI do with this jumble of data? All on its own, it started to find patterns. The first one it pulled out was this really sharp spike in muscle tension that then dropped off super quickly.
Without anyone telling it what to look for, the AI had discovered the physical signature of a startle.
But it didn't stop there. Sifting through the data, it found another, completely different shape. This one was a much slower, more sustained rise and then fall in tension, a pattern we would instantly recognize and call frustration. The AI found it completely on its own. And then it found a third pattern, which is maybe the most clever of all, a flat line. It realized that the absence of a reaction was itself a meaningful pattern. This wasn't just noise or useless data. It was the signature of a specific experience, indifference. The player just didn't care.
So think about what just happened here. The AI didn't just crunch numbers. It started with raw, meaningless data, and from it, it discovered 3 distinct, meaningful human experiences. It created its own concepts from scratch. That is the hermeneutic circle in action, right there in the code.
So where does this all lead? What does this mean for our future? Well, it suggests we're on the verge of a totally different kind of relationship with technology.
This whole idea, this hermeneutic turn, is about shifting our view of AI. We're moving away from seeing it as just a smarter calculator or a more efficient tool. We're moving towards seeing it as a potential partner in interpretation, an ally we could collaborate with to make sense of really complex stuff in medicine, in science, maybe even in understanding ourselves.
And that leaves us with a really provocative question to chew on. If we can actually build machines that can participate in this ancient human cycle of understanding, what happens next? We're not just creating smarter tools anymore. We could be inviting entirely new kinds of minds into the conversation to help us figure out what it all means. What new worlds of meaning will we discover together?